Hi, I'm Jason Gordon for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to look at the 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Big shelf.
So I've told this story a few times, but I figure I might as well put it on record here. I saw Jaws for the first time. Came out 50 years ago today, the day that I'm recording this, which happens to be the summer solstice, June 21st, 2025. 50 years ago, the film came out. I didn't see it until many years later. I was in 1975, I was 3. Um, but when I first saw it, my dad had actually videotaped it off, I guess, Super Channel, one of the pay stations. And my parents split at that time, so this would have been early 80s. And I was a kid that had a lot of nightmares. I was just, I was a fragile child. And I didn't love scary movies. I remember at a sleepover, we saw Poltergeist on CED. And if I remember correctly, this might be like one of those crazy childhood memories that you're never really sure about, but it felt like we stopped the movie when the house imploded. And so for years, I thought the ending of Poltergeist was just the family just died. Anyway, point of the matter is that when I saw Jaws, all I knew about it was that every adult I knew was terrified of this film. Like, this was the first time that I knew adults could truly be scared the way that I was as a kid. And so I just heard for years and years that Jaws was the scariest thing ever. That when I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was the guy who did Jaws, and it was scary as hell. And then I saw stuff in Raiders, there's spiders and stuff like that. But that Jaws was somehow torturous. Plus, my dad's from Atlanta, Canada, so we had a cottage on Pointe-de-Chêne near Shediac. And so I learned to swim, basically, in salt water. My first beach experiences were on these sandy beaches with water very much like what's at Martha's Vineyard, Cape Cod, the type of areas that Amity is sort of standing in for. And so, weirdly, to this day, when I jump into large bodies of fresh water like lakes, it feels odd to me. It feels more creepy in a funny way than salt water, where I just kind of gotten used to it now that I scuba dive. Spoiler, that comes ahead. Of those on the channel know that I dive a lot. Anyway, so we geared up to watch Jaws, and I spent a week basically hypnotizing myself, doing whatever, convinced I was going to be so scared. I was going to be so scared, but I was going to stomach it. Somehow I was going to watch it. And I don't even know how it would have been edited down. It would have been on this like 19-inch Trinitron, off of pan and scan, the whole bit. And the film completely terrified me in a way that nothing truly had, but also totally engaged me in a way that I wasn't able to articulate then, and I'm struggling to articulate now. I've said this multiple times, and it's very interesting because it'll connect to something we'll touch on in a second. But for a month, I had essentially trauma from watching this film. I was convinced when I was in the shower that Jaws was going to come into the shower nozzle, like just being in water. And it wasn't the end, it wasn't the biting things, it was I'd never really seen jump scares in that to that extent. It was the mood, it was the music, it was everything, but it was also being told over and over and over again this was going to scare you, and of course it scared you. I didn't seek out that stuff. I still haven't watched many of the 80s horror movies because at the time I didn't want to watch them because they scared him, because as an adult, when I watched them, they're kind of silly. But Jaws is different. Jaws got deep in my soul. I became crazily fascinated with sharks. I did what any older brother did and took all of my fears about sharks and open water and put it on my younger sister. That's what one's supposed to do. And then I became completely enamored with them. I did school projects on sharks. I remember building a model out of DOS, that sort of modeling clay out of a shark. Just the imagery was so embedded into my mind. There was something so foundational. I know kids go through dinosaur phases and all this stuff. I just became a shark person. When I created a logo for one of my first companies that I had, just when I was doing some of my other life, the IT stuff, it just said shark, and inside it was a gold armadillo. It's a very long story about how that happened, but the company was just called Shark, and that was that. When I ended up working with a business partner who had a company named after his teddy bear, actually, That's where Bear Shark came from. That is, again, another side of my life, company that I've been running for many, many years. I learned to scuba dive in the year 2000. I'm actually headed to Galapagos a year from now, a dream trip to actually swim with hammerhead sharks. I have plenty of footage of me with nurse sharks, but very rare actual quote-unquote real sharks. I saw a hammerhead very, very briefly when I was on a Cosmol dive, and it was an absolute thrill. Absolutely enthralled by sharks. The Blue Planet footage of the breaching great whites, all amazing. Dangerous Animals, the 2025 film. Love sharks. And it all 100% comes down to this film that I couldn't explain why it affected me the way it did, but it did. I can psychologize it. I can see the connections between that it's a film about a monster, but really it's the monstrosity of these individuals, the complications of these three men on the boat. I also use Jaws a lot. I've been looking for, and I'd welcome your comment, I've been looking for, it's got to be a German word somehow, a film that should be shit and isn't. A film that's literally on the razor's edge. If they would have shot the shooting script for Jaws, if the shark would have worked, this would have been a terrible movie. All the stuff in the book about the love interest and all this stuff, it's all got thrown away. And there was something about, like Apocalypse Now, another film where quite famously things went way over schedule, delved into absolute darkness, and somehow a masterpiece emerged. It doesn't always happen, but when it does happen, you get something truly extraordinary. It completely reshaped cinema. It completely reshaped Spielberg. 27 years old. Unbelievable. Just one of the great cinematic achievements of all time. Yes, there's merchandise. Those of you have probably seen this, but this is, I absolutely love that Lego actually did this, of the Orca and Bruce. But really, we're here to celebrate the film itself. So, only 5 years ago, it came out on 4K. That's what this set looks like. This one, slightly thicker case, actually comes with a really nice booklet. You don't get any of that in the 50th. They sort of got rid of that section. There's a steelbook available. I don't collect steelbooks. I get them when they sort of show up. But what this does have is a pretty extraordinary documentary that Laurent Bouzereau put together. He's sort of the chronicler of all things Spielberg, one of the great sort of making of documentarians that's been associated with so many of the discs. That's available on Disney Plus if you want to watch it alone. But the fact that I have it on disc is, I think, great. The disc itself is the same as the 45th, from everything that I understand, basically including all the elements. And that's to say, this 4K version is unbelievably good. They did an incredible job at the restoration, not only of the picture, which looks fantastic. The bigger the screen, the better. I've had a chance to see this on giant screens, and it's absolutely astonishing on IMAX-sized screens. But the sound. So what they did when they actually made this new multi-channel mix is they really kept to the spirit of the original, which is essentially a mono mix. And all the dialogue and all the elements are there. There's a little bit of atmospherics with the water when it's there, and the music, which was always recorded in stereo, is what it allows to truly sing. And, you know, that ostinato, the da-da of John Williams, is so integral to this film. So integral to the understanding. And it's, if there's anything that sort of has stuck with it even more, is my early appreciation. Look, I knew John Williams was the guy who did Star Wars. I knew the music stuff, Indiana Jones, all these sort of anthemic things. But long before I really understood things like Psycho, obviously, which, you know, Bernard Herrmann is a major, major influence on the score for Jaws. Creating things ominous, yet eerily simplistic. All of this stuff all together. It all comes together in this absolutely astonishing work. If you do not have 4K TV, this is why to buy a 4K TV. If you do not have a 4K player, this is a disc to own. It is just stunning. As I said, the sound, the visuals all come together. It looks truly cinematic, grain intact. beautiful shots, compositions, all the elements that actually come together. Just an astonishing thing. For the book alone, I'll probably keep the 4K. Why not? It does still have the same features. So just reading off here, the making of Jaws. The Jaws is still working. The important legacy of Jaws. Jaws: A Restoration, deleted scenes and outtakes from the set in the original theatrical trailer included in here. This one talks about storyboards, production photos, marketing Jaws, Jaws phenomenon. These may not have carried over. I haven't dug into it much because I haven't bothered, because I've got them both. If I need the stuff, I have it. Basically, everything that was on the DVDs is for sure on here. But the extra disc on here, this 50th anniversary, has some really interesting interviews, like of Guillermo del Toro, J.J. Abrams, etc. But it's fascinating to actually see Spielberg sort of spell it out. And there was one thing, I might have seen it once and forgot about it, but I didn't realize the one scene that really messed me up was when they're scuba diving underwater, and they go in the hole in the boat, and the head bobs out. And that freaked the hell out of me. Yes, it's a jump scare. It's the sort of fundamental horror trope. But it freaked me out. And I didn't realize that that was shot in Vernon Field's swimming pool in Los Angeles. Of all the things, of all the scenes, of all the stuff on the open water. Another thing I love about Jaws, it was years before I realized that like 95% of it, everything on the water, is all handheld. It's the greatest handheld film of all time. Coming up in the 90s and seeing all this sort of shaky cam stuff, and realize that compositionally you can make a masterpiece, but do it handheld, because instead of, they didn't have gimbals, they didn't have the same thing, Steadicam, any of that stuff. That's so much about why it becomes so visceral. You get the rocking of the horizon. You get all that stuff when they're essentially in open water. It is just unbelievable. So, look, it takes any day to celebrate something as exquisite as Jaws, lest we forget Les Dents de la Mer, Teeth of the Sea in French. Just an incredible, incredible movie. Stunning performances. The discussion of the Arizona, so iconic. The shark coming up. Some of the footage, the underwater stuff that was actually shot in Australia. Generations upon generations of people who fell in love with sharks because of this. And it's that surreal thing that the so-called bad guy is not a bad guy. It's just a shark being a shark. And the bad guys are the ones that are actually there to do it, to sort of attack the fish and try to kill it. And yet totally understandable about why, given their own experience after the sinking of the Arizona, all coming together, all tied together in this extraordinary, extraordinary film. Now, what this film could have been, as I said, if it would have shot, it would have been like Orca. It would have been just a terrible exploitation movie with really awful love interests and all that stuff. And in a funny way, I kind of have that version. It's not quite the same, but I was gifted this. This is on DVD. This is a total bootleg, but this is Jaws, the Sharksploitation cut. As it says in the back, Jaws' Sharksploitation cut transforms the original Jaws into a bona fide sharksploitation film by trimming over 40 minutes from the original movie. Quote, all that boring stuff like character development, adding in almost 30 minutes of new material gleaned from various sources, including the Jaws DVD bonus material, shark and naval documentaries, and scenes nabbed from other movies. In other words, they basically mushed together other shark nonsense to show what this would have been, is essentially a straight-up grindhouse movie. It's an undertaking that could easily end up being a hatchet job, but thanks to some excellent editing, meticulous attention to detail, Jaws, the Sharksploitation edit, is one of the most seamless fan edits you'll ever see. I mean, why not? It's totally silly. It's totally ridiculous. And it just shows about how the effect of this film. And in a funny way, like as goofy and silly as this is a reminder for me about just how extraordinary this one is. Because this is what we could have had. And it's fun in contrast. It's fun as commentary, essentially, on this so-called fan edit. This isn't fixing anything. It's making it much worse. But it's also showing a different alternate universe of what this film should have been by any rights. When they had a book that was a big a bestseller, that this was essentially all we could have hoped for. And instead, a young Spielberg gave us this. Realized that the connection he had with Duel, which again, TV movie about a truck chasing a guy. They're going to do it all process photography, and instead he managed to find a way to actually shoot it so you see the truck constantly in the background. He shot on the ocean, so you constantly see the horizon bobbing up and down. You feel that they're in the middle of the ocean hunting the shark. All of this stuff all together in this masterpiece, one of the greatest works of cinema that will ever be, by one of the greatest directors that will ever be, Steven Spielberg's Jaws, celebrating its 50th anniversary. For ThatShelf.com, I am Jason Gorber. Thank you for letting me gush about this exquisite, exquisite film, which may not be, still think Raiders of the Lost Ark is his best film, but, this one's pretty damn good too. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on social media. Let me know in the comments about what your first experience seeing this shark movie was, and all the best. We'll see you next video. Take care.